Hello, everybody. So this is Mr. Hang. Hope you guys had a good, I don't know, day. Yeah. I'm gonna show you 6.1, point 3, and the objective is students will learn and explain how to use distributive property to simplify expressions. Right. So let's go all the way down here. So here are the math steps right there, and we'll try to just do it pretty quickly. So first of all, we have 2 minus parentheses negative x and negative 4. Okay, so these are terms, right? The x here, negative x is a term. This is a term, right? We can call this a term if you want to as well, okay? Now, the steps are, first step is to make sure I get my drawing feature. So step 1 here is to identify the factor and the sign outside of the parentheses, right? So we know that these are parentheses here. First of all, if we wanted to, we can do the order of operations, meaning we would take care of whatever or combine whatever there is in the parentheses first. But if you look at this, the x and the 4 are not like terms, so therefore we can't combine these two, right? They remain separate. So step 1, identify the factor, right, outside of the parentheses. This right here is a factor outside of the parentheses. And then it says to also identify the sign, right? What is the sign? Well, the sign is a negative right there. You can call it minus if you want to. Now, before we move on to step 2, that was easy, right? Before we move on to step 2, you have to add a 1 in front of the negative, right? We want to do this because we're going to be multiplying, or in other words, distributing that negative to the parentheses. And we've done this before, right? Where we worked with distributive property. Okay, so we're going to multiply that, but before we even multiply that, I usually add a 1 here. Another thing you want to do is, if you want, you can also add a 1 in front of the x. Okay, so that way you know it's 1x. You don't have to, but I put it there. So now we can do step 2. Okay, so step 2, multiply the factor to each term in the parentheses. So we know that these are factors. We're going to multiply what's outside the parentheses, the negative 1, right? So what's negative 1 times a negative 1x? Well, that's going to give us a positive 1x. And then I'm going to use a different color. I'm going to take that same negative 1, right? And then I'll multiply it times the negative 4. So what's negative 1 times negative 4? Well, negative times a negative will give us a positive, and 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, now we took care of this, right? We distributed the negative 1 to each term. These are terms. And then we're going to just bring down what we have left, which is this 1 right here, the 2. So now, there you go. We have a straight up expression. So the first thing you want to do to make this look a little bit nicer is to box it up. Okay, and then where does the line go? Well, the line goes after a number, the line goes after a variable, and the line goes after the number, right? Which it's already here. So now we want to combine like terms. And remember when we did something like this, and I put the little rectangle here in a circle, and then we regrouped them, right? We put the x's on one side and then the constants on the other side. Well, we're not going to do that anymore because we already know what it looks like. So which one are like terms? Okay, before we got to combine like terms right here. Step 3. Which one are like terms? Well, the 2 and the x is not. The reason why is because this one doesn't have a variable and this one doesn't. But we know that this one here and this one does. So we're going to regroup that so that way they're next to each other, so we can do it easier. So 2, and then that positive 4, right? This is also a positive. And then the last one to write down is the positive. Sorry about that. The last one to write down is this positive 1x, right? Again, you can write this as just a regular x if you want to. So now we have 2 plus 4 plus 1x. Now we can combine it after regrouping it. So what's 2 plus 4? It's going to be 6. And then we just have this right here, plus 1x. Okay, so your final answer is 6 plus 1x, right? If you wanted to, we could have boxed this if we wanted to, right? And we could have did this, then this, and then we, 4 plus 2 is 6, and then plus 1x. That's it, okay? This one here is a little different. The only difference is that there's a plus, right, instead of a minus here. So again, always start with the steps, right? So step 1, identify the factor, okay? We know this is a factor. And then the sign outside of parentheses, we know this is the sign outside of the parentheses. And then, so we did step 1. Step 2, right? Before we do that, what do we add? We want to add a 1, right, in front of the sign, because we need to multiply this positive times this. Just like here, we multiply this times this. And then, because there's a variable here, you can also add a 1 here. Not necessary, but if for you guys who need it, you can add a 1 right there. And then you're going to multiply that positive 1, right? Because step 2 says to do what? Multiply the factor to each term. The y is a term. This is a term. You're going to multiply it within the parentheses. So positive 1 times a positive 1y is going to give you a positive 1y, right? Anything times 1 will give you itself. And then you're going to multiply the positive 1 times a negative 12, which will give you a negative 12. And then you're going to bring down what's left over. What's left over? Right here, the 4, right? So 4. So now, step 3 says to do what? Combine like terms. So I would box it first. Put a line after the number. Put a line after the y. It just looks better this way. And then which one has like terms? Well, the 4 and the negative 12. So bring those two closer together. Okay. And then bring the other one down, which is a positive 1y. So now we have this. So again, I can box it if I want to. So what happens when you combine the like terms here? When you have 4 negatives and you have more negatives, you're going to get more negatives, right? Remember the one that has like a positive and a positive will give you a positive, a negative will give you a negative. Well, this is it. You want to add these two together. So what's 12 plus 4? It's going to be 16. Okay, but also you want to keep it a negative. And then you just bring this one down and you have positive 1y. Okay, so your answer is 16, negative 16 plus 1y. You can't combine these because they're not like terms. Okay, so that's about it. And there's a few more that's going to be different. If you want to, you can go to assignments to do that. If you did not finish this, you need to go in your thing and finish it. Okay, for period 1 and 3, your grades have been posted. Okay, all right. Thank you. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.